back, we were connected through high school. He was my basketball coach in high school. Me coming from a Jamaican background, my father born in Jamaica and raised in Jamaica. All my family strong Jamaican roots, Dawkins as well. Being born there and doing a lot in the community there, helping out in Jamaica, and he still has those strong roots. So we connected way back, maybe what, 12, 15?
12, 15 years
12,
now.
15 years now. Now we're working together with Phase 1 up in Toronto, developing kids, a lot of youth programs, athletic development, skill development, coaching. And we've been doing this for a little bit now. And we just want to be a part of this project, giving back to Jamaica, helping raise money, because we both have strong Jamaican heritage, strong Jamaican pride, and we want to see what we can do to help.
All right.
So, Doc, how did you get involved in Jamaica basketball, and what exactly is your role?
Okay, well, Jamaica period for me is, like, that's that home away from home. I was born in Jamaica, and even though I was raised in Canada, I mean, I think for a lot of Jamaicans that leave, and even the ones that are second generation, and you always have a connection to where your sort of your place of origin. And so for me, I've always been connected to Jamaica, and looking for ways to be involved and impact Jamaica. 22 years ago, I started a school there with my cousin, and it was a real like a passion project. But 22 years later, it's still there. And I learned from that with some faith and a little bit of hard work, roll up your sleeves, you can make a difference without being rich or famous. And then the next thing I really wanted to do was I really wanted some, kids in Jamaica to have that experience that I had, being raised in Canada, the things that basketball did for me. Because I looked at it like, if basketball could get me a scholarship, do all the great things it did for me, then, I'd like to see that happen for kids in Jamaica. And I wasn't sure exactly how to do that, but every time I travel, I, do little clinics and help people out. But I knew there was more I could do. And, last year I went to the Jersey Mike Classic to check out my guy Boubacar for Eastern Michigan. They was playing the Jersey Mike Classic in Montego Bay, and they were doing a community clinic that I jumped in on, and I thought it was great. I got a chance to network. I met Dave Black, and Dave Black is a former Jamaican national team player. He's a PE teacher at Herbert Morrison Technical School in Montego Bay, and just a phenomenal community guy. He's also the head development coach for the women's team, Jamaican national team. And we said, okay, you know what? Let's not talk. Let's make a difference. There's only one covered basketball court in all of Jamaica. Let's raise money together and cover a court for his school. And that would be like our project to sort of just get something going for the community. And then while that happened now, again, it was just fate. I ended up just reaching out to Coach Rick Turner. And, we had a conversation about, some of the things that I was trying to do. I was trying to pull him into. He showed me the vision he had for Jamaica basketball. And I was like, man, this guy's got a great plan. And it's a plan that's bigger than just getting to the Olympics, which obviously that's the big goal. But is a project to be able to put infrastructure in and change basketball in Jamaica from the grassroots level. And that's something for me that I was really excited about. And, he invited me to be a part of his team. And so I'm director of development. I told him, as long as I'm not doing X's and O's, because you got plenty of people can do X's and O's. So, as long as I'm able to be a part of the development in the community
right
there, I'm in.
Yeah. So
that being said, I think, like we got a great lineup. We know how incredible Jamaica's been in terms of impacting the globe. I think just off the jump, if you think about, the Jamaican Canadians that are impacting the world right now, some of you may not know. So maybe, we can list some who are the Canadians that that are Jamaican heritage that are doing their thing. Like, who you got?
Jamal Murray. Andrew Nicholson. Denham Brown, one of the best to ever come out of Canada. He's
Seattle Draft, Supersonics. The Ennis, both Ennis brothers.
Tyler Ennis,
Number one draft pick, Anthony Bennett.
Yeah.
You know, the list goes Tristan Thompson,
Right.
you know, like the list goes on and on. I'm sure some of the new young boys are as well too. So, you know, and then, you know, obviously the greatest of all time, you know, on the American side of it, you know, Patrick Ewing,
Right.
Jamaican, we know Patrick Ewing, Drummond is a Jamaican. So we know Jamaicans that are outside of Jamaica, you know, and have Jamaican heritage are making that impact. So why can't we, you know, what's not happening in Jamaica? Why is not Jamaica on a world stage if we have that type of pedigree and that kind of gene pool?
Right.
So let's take it away. So your guy,
Yeah.
is
So
gonna be
our first guest is a guy who is really close to me. I met him 2015. I was playing pro in NBL Canada here, and he came over, and he's been a big brother to me. Really good guy, man, on and off the court. Great father, great husband, extremely motivational. You know, he taught me a lot. Up to this day, we still talk regularly. And that's Akeem Scott. Played on the Jamaican national team in 2012, and he's been playing pro for probably a decade or more all over the world. He's been to dozens of countries all over the world, been playing, going hard. So let's welcome Akeem Scott.
Yeah.
Yo, what's happening, fellas? What's good?
What's good? What's going on, bro?
Everything is going on, man.
Yeah.
Taking it day by day, you know, with the COVID situation and enjoying this family time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man. I see you got your colors. I know you always.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I had to rep. You know what I mean? I had to rep.
So, Keem, so if everybody doesn't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your basketball journey, and how you got started, and a little bit about yourself.
All right, so my name is Akeem Scott, born and raised in New York City. My father is Jamaican, and played high school ball in Virginia. Went to junior college, and then after that, went to High Point University. After that, I've been playing overseas basketball ever since, and I'm still playing right now. I'm going into my 14th year. It's been an amazing ride, and it feels good, dog. You know the crazy thing, and not to like get off of like my background and stuff like that. You know, people got this thing with like age because of like the past decades. And now I'm just so happy for like the players now that's around my age, like LeBron, Chris Paul, all these guys are showing that age doesn't matter. Like if you still got love for the game and you're still working, and you're still putting your body to the everyday task of competing and trying to improve every day, because in basketball it's a game that you can learn, you can keep learning. And like I feel like amazing. Like I feel really amazing. I feel like I can go for another 5 or 10. So this journey is amazing, man.
I remember the first time we met, I asked him like, how old are you? He's like, age, that doesn't matter. He said I'm eternal. he said age, no, I still don't know how old he is to this day right now. But you know what I mean? You've been preaching that, and I'm happy to see you keep hooping, man, at a high level, man. Trust me, you're inspiration, truly, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, man, for all you guys out there that's getting up there in age, man, don't believe in time. Just listen to your body and continue to just work until you feel like it's time for you to get up the game.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
So you said your connection, your dad is Jamaican, right?
Yeah, my pops.
So growing up with a Jamaican dad, how did that shape you just in life for like in your basketball journey? How did that Jamaican heritage, that culture that you were brought up with kind of shape you? What are some things?
All right, so my dad, so I come from a single parent home, which is my mom raised me.
Okay.
But when my dad used to come get me and take me to Brooklyn, they made sure that everything was Jamaican. They was like, yo, we making sure that the food you eat, the music you listen to, everything. So my grandmother, if I wanted a cheeseburger or something, that didn't exist.
Right.
You're gonna eat this curry goat, you're gonna eat these oxtails, you know what I mean? Rice. Yeah. They from a young age, and I didn't know that when I become a grown up, how much that would mean to me. But at a young age, like what my father and my grandmother like installed in me of loving where I'm from, you know, that part of me, it became so much bigger when I got to put Jamaica on my chest.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like the first time I put that jersey on, I remember the chill I got. I thought about my pops.
Right.
I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna be a problem today because I'm about to go crazy. Like I just felt that vibe, right? It's crazy. And just growing up, man, my pops always wanted to make sure that he knew like I knew what that side was like. You know, sometimes when you grow up in a single parent home, you just focus on, you know what I'm saying, on that one side that's raising you. But anytime my pops got his hands on me, there was always reggae music. There was always the culture inside of the house. They were speaking patois, even if I didn't understand everything, you know. I had to like really like reach in there and be like, what? You know what I mean? So it was like it was a great. I didn't know how much I would appreciate it until I got older. Right. And that's when seeing my passport come in and then going to Jamaica. I've been to Jamaica before I got my passport, but going there as a citizen, it was different. Like I went into the citizen line. So everything was more chilling for me.
Right. Yeah. I think we connected like that too. Cause me come from a single parent house where my mom is from Barbados, but my dad is from Jamaica. Right. So, but you know, like Caribbean background, but every time I'm with my dad, with my grandma who passed last year, God rest her soul, like those are like two of the most influential people in my life, right? And they're strong Jamaican roots, strong Jamaican heritage. And like you said, now growing up, I just have my son, and like I want to make sure that I'm teaching him the same roots, you know, that was passed down to me. So I think, it's great to hear people telling you the story, right? So you talked about getting your passport, getting nationalized. What made you decide that you wanted to go get that passport, put Jamaica on your chest, and like what was the process like for anybody who's out there? Because I know there's a lot of Jamaicans out there, like all over the world, that don't know exactly how to go about the process. So
my situation was crazy. Like I had no idea Jamaica had a national team at the time. Like I had no idea. So I go to New York. At the time I'm living in Atlanta. I go to New York. My agent wanted me to get the passport so I could be a dual citizen, and he could offer me to different countries.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I got the passport. So I get into the to go get the passport or whatever. I'm doing the paperwork. So the lady just randomly says, because she see basketball player on my paperwork, she was like, "Oh, so you gonna play for the national team?" And I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Yeah." She said, "You don't know?" She said, "You're a basketball player. You don't know your country has a national team?" And I was like, "No, I don't." So it's crazy. She gave me this email to this lady named Ennis, and I sent the email over to her. I showed her like my links of me playing. And I got a message immediately, like, "Listen, we're gonna have a tryout." And this is how my process went. And we was like, she was like, "We're gonna have a tryout in Orlando Magic facility, and we want you to be there." So they bought my ticket and everything. And when I walked into the gym, my perspective was I was gonna walk in and I was gonna just see, you know, guys from Jamaica, and I'm just gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like I just thought that's what it was gonna be. I thought I was special, like. I didn't know it was 300 of us. I was like, "Oh shit! Like, what is this?"
Right.
Yeah. I walk in the gym. Patrick Ewing Jr. He's shooting, warming up. You got Roy Hibbert coming in another day or two. We got Wayman Rose, who was like at that time he had just won the championship. Adrian Uter. I'm like, God damn, these are like all these dudes I usually bump into in these different stages in Europe and stuff.
Right.
And so this is how my process went. I had to go through a tryout where every day 15 or 20 people was getting cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, it was crazy. So like literally every loose ball, like I'm diving on that, like because you have to look a certain way. You know what I mean? You gotta play like, yo, this is the last day, because every day you're watching people get cut. So that was part of my process, man, going through that big tryout. And then it was like maybe like 17, 18 people left, and this was the last cut. Right. And I was on the third team in practice, and we had to play against Roy Hibbert team and Pat Ewing team. And, we're doing the scrimmages, and we are literally whooping everybody with the third team, everybody. And Pat Ewing, he takes the ball, Pat Ewing Jr. takes the ball, and he throw it. He said, "Who the fuck is this kid? What's happening here?" And then the coach was like, "Yo, like, we have no idea what's happening right now," because I'm like, at that moment, I was outplaying all the starters and the people who was there. So that's how I got my spot, just by outworking everybody. And then from then on, it's just been
all right.
Jamaica national team.
Well, the thing about that is, for people to understand is the process has changed a bit because FIBA changed the rules now. So you got to get that passport before the age of 16 because they only allowed one sort of naturalized player.
Okay.
So anybody who doesn't have their passport before 16 can't qualify. So guys are finding out the hard way now that an opportunity to represent, that's something that you got to start that process earlier now. Right? And so that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we get out in this broadcast, that as much as it's great to represent the country that you live in or you're raised in, but that may not be a door that's open for a lot of guys.
Right.
And we got our boy Kyle Johnson.
Yeah, he knows Kyle.
Okay,
Kyle played in that team.
Yeah, Kyle's a perfect example. Here's a kid who that may at the time that might have had a shot at a Canadian national team, but it was kind of tight. We got some ballers, right?
Right.
So he made a decision. He could have gone with with Jamaica or with Britain. He went with Britain, and he was in the Olympics in 2012.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in London watching him play against Kobe and Chris Paul and everybody playing alongside Pops and BG, another Jamaican, Ben Gordon, representing Britain. So
right.
He got an opportunity of a lifetime, because he decided that, hey, you know what, there's more to my heritage than just than where I was where I was raised. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So going off of that, like you grew up in New York, right?
Yep.
And what other borough did you grow up in?
What other? Say it again. Last part.
What borough did you grow up in?
I grew up in Manhattan.
In Manhattan.
Yeah, I grew up in Manhattan.
So we're talking about Jamaicans all over the world. What was like the Jamaican presence in your community, especially like on a day-to-day basis? Was there? I know we've been to other places around the world. You go to certain towns, certain cities. There's no Jamaican restaurants.
Right.
There's nothing around. You're scrounging up. You gotta go. You gotta cook because you can't go anywhere to find any food. What was it like growing up in Manhattan, in New York, with that culture, with the Jamaican culture?
All right, so yeah, I grew up in the projects 130 Amsterdam. I'm a few blocks from the start of Harlem. So right then, you already know that Jamaicans is everywhere. Like once you go uptown, Jamaicans everywhere, and then also going to Brooklyn to go see my pops. Brooklyn is little Jamaica. You know what I mean? So, but like on an everyday basis, it's like
just flooded.
Yeah, it's flooded. It's one thing, and this is the good thing about Jamaica. The culture, everybody loves the culture, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of the most popular cultures in the world, if not the popular culture, in the world.
Yeah.
And everybody embraces it, and everybody loves it, and that's what I love about Jamaica. That I'm so happy I'm Jamaican because white people love Jamaica, black people love Jamaica, Hispanic love Jamaica. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah, so growing up in Manhattan, that Jamaica was every other block, restaurants, music. We celebrated. We always celebrate the national holiday. You know what I'm saying, Independence Day, because you had real Jamaicans there. You know what I'm saying? People who were born and raised who came over to New York to see if they could have a better life, trying to make more money for their family.
Right.
And that's like Toronto, and I think I got a couple generations on him, but the Jamaican influence in Toronto, people don't understand. Like, that you come from Jamaica to Toronto, like you don't feel like you've missed a beat,
right?
Like from
real, yeah.
The community, and that's the thing that's pretty amazing about Jamaica. The influence of the culture is really strong, and then also the influence of the athletes. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to show people, that even though Jamaica itself hasn't had that sort of presence on a world stage for basketball as a country, but in communities like where you came up and us, I mean, we're running some of the best basketball players in our community for generations.
You guys are breaking up a little bit.
You can hear us now?
I can hear you right now.
No.
Yeah, now I can.
Okay. Yeah. So we're saying for some of the best basketball players for generations in certain communities, like immigrant communities, it's been Jamaican culture. Jamaicans leading the way. So in your area, who are some of the big Jamaicans that you know, that you saw coming up that you recognized that even now in hindsight, looking back at it, you may not even realize they're Jamaican until later on. But was there any sort of big name Jamaican guys that really stood out to you when you were young coming up?
Nah, no, you know what? Not really. You got to think. So growing up in New York, it's the Mecca, it's the basketball Mecca, right, of the world. So you don't really, you're not hearing who's Jamaican. And at that time, people were just, you from New York. That's it. That's what you heard. It was like, this guy's from New York. This player's from New York. So just growing up in New York, the only name you really heard that was Jamaican was Pat Ewing.
Yeah.
Right? So Pat, that was all you heard was Big Pat. So it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until I got more towards my professional career where I started bumping into people who was prideful and saying like, yo, no, I'm Jamaican. Right. And I'm from Jamaica, you know what I mean? And when you're young, especially in New York, the way how New York moves, how fast it is, you really don't get the gist of where people are really from. Everybody say, I'm from New York. I'm from New York.
That's true. Yeah, you know what? That's true. And you know what? I mean, for me, the first Jamaican that I found out about, you know, was obviously Patrick Ewing. Right. And just it turns out he's actually my cousin. You know, that's my grandmother's, nephew, or he used to call my grandmother aunt, you know, basically. So me and him got to know each other. So like I didn't know him in my younger years, but it was amazing, you know, just seeing Big Pat. And I remember when they hit him on an interview and he bust out some patois, and I was like, what? he's a real yachty. Yeah. And then meeting him later on was amazing. But the Jamaican that I most looked up to, because I saw myself in him when I was really young, I found out was Ramil Robinson.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, like that's why I wanted to be a Wolverine. When I found out Ramil was Jamaican, I was like, and we were 6'1", stocky. I'm like, and literally my dream was to play for the Michigan Wolverines as soon as I found out he was Jamaican. And then when I got to Eastern Michigan, I was right next door. Ypsilanti's right next door to Ann Arbor. I just missed, but then we got a chance to play the Fab Five at Chrysler Arena, and everybody's, man, aren't you excited? You about to play the Fab Five, Chris Webber, Chrysler Arena? And I said to everybody, no, I'm excited because I'm about to play where Ramil Robinson played. I didn't even care about the Fab Five. I was like, man, Ramil Robinson played here. So I think that connection to knowing another Jamaican that was successful was huge. And I think, that's something, for you, we look at you and you're probably right now inspiring a lot of young people that are Jamaican, with your energy and your love for Jamaica. So I want to, while you stay on, we want to bring on Dave Black. Okay. Dave Black is, he's a former Jamaican national team player, and he's also a PE. Actually, he's on here. I'll let you tell your story, Dave. Tell us about you, Dave.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on, Dave?
I'm from Montego Bay, Jamaica. I'm a coach and a teacher at Urban Morris Technical High School. Akeem Scott don't remember me though, but in Montego, when he came to Montego Bay for a trials, I was there trying out for the team as well.
Oh, for real? Really?
Yeah, I was there.
I tell you, it was
the first time I was there. Yeah, I know there was a lot of people, but I was one of the local players that was there.
Okay.
At the time. Basically, that's it.
Yeah. So, Dave, national team. What first of all, let's just tell us about what it was like for you representing Jamaica coming up.
For me, with the national team, most of the local players was picked from Kingston side or overseas players. Like from my region, is Western Jamaica and Montego Bay. There's no player from my side playing on the national team. So at the time I was playing, they asked for a pickup, like some players from the Western to play against female players. And I was there playing against the female national team. And coach come over to me and said, why am I not at the hotel with the rest of the guys? Because they are preparing themselves to go overseas. And I was like, no, I wasn't invited. And he was asking which side, which college do I play for overseas? And I said, no, I'm a local player. And he said, what? I have to bring you on to come to church for the team. So I was there the next day training with Akeem Scott and the other guys to make it the team. So that's how I get involved with the national team.
Okay, Akeem, you didn't remember him.
Yo, listen. I'm telling y'all, those years, like when we started, what was that? What's around 2012, 2013?
Yeah.
Listen, a lot of people that I don't even know truthfully how I made the team. Obviously, I believe in my talent and stuff. But when you see the number of people that were coming in and out every day, it was crazy. Because it was wild. Like I went through that whole process. And when we went to Jamaica, that's when they started bringing everybody from Kingston. You was with like Shooty and them, right?
Yeah, I was with them.
Yeah. So right now you got another group coming in. So like it was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was invited. I was there playing with the females, playing against the female because they were leaving the next day. So and he see me play and asked me, why am I not at the hotel? I'm like, no, I'm just come here to play against the female. And I say, yo, I'm going to sign you up for the practice the day after with the male team. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. But I didn't make the team. I didn't make the national team a couple of years after that because I went to GC Foster College. That's a local basketball college in Kingston, Jamaica. And at that time, I went to Mexico. You wasn't a part of that team as well. I don't know why. I think he had something to do at that time. But Wayne Rose was a part of that team. Okay. And we competed in Mexico. We a couple local players and a couple of overseas players at the time.
Okay.
Well, Dave, I think that it's important that we, while we're on this broadcast, it's an opportunity to let people really understand, how we can help Jamaica. What's it like now? And what is it? What's going to make a difference? How can we help make a difference?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem we have in Jamaica with local players, the kids start to play basketball too late. Like most of the kids in Jamaica start playing basketball in high school when they are 15, 16, and that is too late. Not all the players are going to be like 6'11", 6'10", like some other Samoans who start to play basketball late and get the opportunity to go overseas. Like most of the kids start to play basketball at age 16, 15, and the lack of courts in Jamaica is one of the biggest problems. Like no kid or nobody have the opportunity to just go to a court and start to work on his game or stuff like that. They're not even know the game of basketball at maybe age 4 or 5 or 6. They're not introduced to the sport at that level, and that's a major problem. Right.
Yeah, and I think infrastructure is a big thing because that's what we talked about. So yeah, Dave and I hooked up in Jamaica last year, and they took me to his school, and he showed me his basketball court. I couldn't believe it. It looked like a whole parking lot. So
yeah,
that's a basketball court.
That's the court that we compete on. That's the court that we compete on.
I couldn't believe it.
For us in Western Jamaica, we don't have no indoor facility. All of our courts are outside. And so that when rain and anything like that, with basketball stop. Yeah. So like even at this time now, due to COVID, like during this time of the season, like it's always raining a lot. So the games maybe have to play at 11 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the day, just to facilitate the game. At that time, the sun is, it's crazy.
So you got the elements, but also no lights. You told me there's not even, lights.
Like the school courts, they don't have no lights, guys, and it's not covered. So if you're playing a game, like the game normally starts at 3 o'clock. So if you're playing a game and it's into an overtime or double overtime, you have to actually cancel that game and play it the next day because there's no light to continue.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. I can't even imagine that.
That's what I'm saying. I couldn't even imagine that. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: why it's so important that like raising money for Jamaica is so important, and also to make sure that you bring in the proper people for the national team, so you can win, right? So we can win, because the more games that we win, the more countries and the more people get to say, oh, Jamaicans can play basketball. So let's find out what's happening there, and then that's when you start getting more sponsors from outside of the country of Jamaica, right? Like we want Nike to recognize us. We want Reebok to recognize us. Like Nike is big in Brazil, even though Brazil is a huge football country, and also basketball. But Nike is invested into Brazil. We want to get companies like that, Under Armour, whatever else, to start putting money into our country, right?
Absolutely.
Right. For sure. I think at the time when the president bringing you guys like William Rose, Akeem Scott, Patrick Ewing, like at that time we get most of the local companies start to fund the local basketball at that time because you guys were doing so good on the international scene. It prompted the local government to start to give back or give basketball community like money to run leagues. Because that is the time when they started the NBA, the National Basketball League. And that is one of the biggest tournaments for us locally. And it was that time when you guys were doing so good on the international scene.
But that doesn't exist anymore, right?
No, it's not.
So what?
They're trying, but it's not as big as how it used to.
Okay. Yeah, so we definitely need some energy behind that. So before we're about to bring in another guest to join. Everyone's good to stay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna let Ashton introduce our next guest, to join us.
So this is another one of my close friends, Nathaniel Mitchell. He's from here in Toronto. He's been in the basketball community for a long time. He started out as a trainer. He's training guys, high school kids, pros, and now he's moved his way up. He's at Fresno State as an assistant, Canadian national team as an assistant, and now he's assistant coach in the NBA for the Charlotte Hornets. So this is one of my good friends, Nathaniel Mitchell. Nat, thanks for joining us.
All right. Nat, what's good?
What's up, man? How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us, man. You got you want to take a minute or two and just give us a little bit of your journey? I know you could probably go on for a long time, but incredible journey you've had, but people may not know. So,
was born here, Toronto, Canada, of Jamaican descent. My mother and father was Jamaican, and so I grew up in that type of household in the West Indian culture, and pretty much grew up here in Toronto, and luckily with our diverse city, similar to like in New York or Miami, we have so many other Jamaicans that made it easy to see other people like me, to learn my culture through other people, and for me to pick up a basketball again around the city was easy, which kind of led me to playing in high school, playing in college. I had dreams and aspirations of being a professional basketball player, didn't work out, and got into the training, and where it eventually landed me as a coach to this day. And coaching has been great for me. It's brought me all around the world, coaching for our Canadian national team, and also coaching in the NBA has given me opportunities, even up until last summer, where I got to go back to Jamaica and really help out with basketball with Digicel. We did the camp there with NBA and Digicel combined, and they gave me an opportunity to go back. And that for me was big time. I haven't been able to do that. I always wanted to do that, and I plan to do that more, just knowing where I came from and my roots, and to be able to give back to the youth back there and try to build up. And I think it's great in the position I am that hopefully I can encourage and help coaches to help the youth get better.
Yeah, and that's a big thing Dave and I talked about too, is like, when we talk about infrastructure, people really think, obviously courts and baskets and rims, but a big part of infrastructure is, coaching knowledge and curriculum, and having people like you, having these guys have access to people like yourself. And I think it'd be interesting to hear from Dave. Like Dave, like what type of access do you have to guys like Nathaniel? And if you could access somebody like Nathaniel, like what would you need from him, or what would you want from him?
Basically, like the Jumpstart program that he come down for last year, I was there as well. Those programs are really good for the kids because at that they get exposed to NBA type players, NBA type coaches, and stuff like that. And I think 6 players get a chance to travel overseas and play in the Caribbean, and also get a chance to travel to New York for the final day. So those programs are really good for the kids because give them a lot of exposure to like basketball outside of Jamaica. I just feel like to be coached by different coaches like from overseas and stuff like that.
Okay.
Nat, I know you worked with like basketball beyond borders and stuff in Africa, right? What are some things that you think that Jamaica could take from learning from that program now, and maybe we can bring it over to the Jamaican side and try and incorporate some of the same things? What are some things that they do well? Because there's a bunch of guys coming in from Africa now that are coming into the NBA and making big impact. How do you think, is it possible to kind of take that model over to Jamaica and see if we can?
Yeah, I think what they're doing now, like that organization with Giants of Africa that I was involved with, that was Masai Ujiri, right? He's picking certain countries per year. He's trying to bring coaches over there, having a top 50 camp in each country and things of this nature to try and improve the game. And I try to identify talent and try to help them, again, helping the coaches, the amount of community coaches that are involved. That is the big piece. And being here in Canada, to be honest, from where our national team has come from to maybe 1 to 2 NBA players to now 16, it's kind of the same process. And what I believe what has been done is really hit the grassroots level. You know, so identifying 12, 13-year-olds, wow, this kid's 6'5", 12 years old. He's 6 foot. He has long arms, big feet. Maybe he's gonna and then now let's invest into these kids. What do they need? What kind of things do they need from, is it training, weight training, individual skills practice? But again, the resources to do that and the infrastructures that we talked about always will come down to coaching. I think now in our country, the coaching has gotten so much better. The amount of trainers that have tried to invest into their youth now has grown. At one point, I remember everybody was trying to train with Wayne.
Yeah.
Now you have a plethora of options. And I think the biggest thing, and what I loved about going to Digicel and Jumpstart in Jamaica, while I was in Kingston, yeah, we got to work with the kids and we got to get them better. But the best part for me was, lunch break, after camp, sitting with the coaches and them having questions and me answering and putting them through things. This is how you teach it. This is how you break it down. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, here in Toronto, they're in Africa, they're in Jamaica, the kids are not going to get better until the coaches search out professional development to allow themselves to get better, to allow the kids to get better. And I think that's how you grow a country.
Yeah, and that's so huge about what you're saying, because a lot of people talk about the explosion of Canadian basketball and you got the Raptors, you got Vince, and everybody's sort of convinced that it just it took putting an NBA team here to make that happen, and that's not taking anything away from it. But the reality, like you said, is we were very fortunate because even the generation before me, they were already teaching us. We were already sort of being groomed for that opportunity when it came. And a lot of people don't really realize that guys like David Joseph had me in the gym when I was in high school. And if you don't know David Joseph, he's Corey Joseph's dad, with the Kings. And he had me in the gym doing skill development. And he exposed me to that type of training. And guess what I did? I exposed it. And along the way, guys were, this was happening. And there was a lot of great talent that a lot of people didn't know about. So the thing about, what you're saying in terms of access to the trainers and having access to better coaching, it's like it really was beginning to happen. It was sort of percolating before the explosion. And by the time we got to the explosion, guys like you are, we're already, in among a lot of other good, talented people, and you just needed to be discovered, and I think that's something that was happening in Canada.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the other big piece, and what I'm hearing are the guys that did make it out, that did go to college, that were exposed to coaching, were now coming back.
Absolutely.
When I was finished when you were finished college and you were playing pro, you went back. Rowan Barrett, before he became the general manager, he was in the gym with kids, right? Like, I went to college, I went back. So as much as we're having, guys go, they're coming back and investing back into the community because they're the ones exposed to the coaching that really needs to help the youth. So the guys in Jamaica that do get these Division I scholarships, and all these things, it's time to go back and now invest into the youth. And use your knowledge to what you've been exposed to start helping these kids. And the fruits of the labor may not come till later, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start planting the seeds. And the kids that you see now that are in the NBA are second generation, third generation kids.
Right.
They're not. We didn't have the guy that just came. My mom came, had me. I'm exposed. I don't make it, but the percentage of my son's friend going, just went from 10% to 25%,
Right.
to some type of level, and that's what's happening. Like, Rowan Barrett didn't make it, but his son did. You know what I mean? And I seen all these kids play. My dad played here, and Jalen Williams' dad played here, and this guy. So I think right now in Jamaica, what you're seeing is, guys are starting to go Division I over and over and over again. And so now when they're starting their second generation to third, I think you're going to see more just go a step further. There's more knowledge. I think that is proven in the track.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the thing, though, with Jamaica, Dave, where it's difficult for that to happen in Jamaica, because without courts, without infrastructure, it's not like New York or Toronto. Like, when guys want to come back, it's like, even for, if Dave didn't, Dave will, tell them, like, it's very difficult for people to access courts and access places to, to hold camps and different things like that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that, because that's something that you had shared with me as well.
Like, for other sports, like for track and field and football and soccer, you see these kids are playing from age 4, 5, 6, because all of the primary school have a track or have a football field, so they can be exposed to those sports. Like, I don't think there's 10 primary school with basketball courts over Jamaica. There's maybe 2 or 3 primary school with basketball courts. So that is one of the biggest problems. So these kids don't get exposed to basketball till high school. And when they do reach high school, there's a limited amount of high school who do have courts or who play a basketball league. Wow. So courts is one of the biggest problems we have overall in Jamaica. Like, they don't get exposed to the sports. Like, sometimes a kid don't know what basketball is till maybe high school. And that's the biggest problem. You see, like, a kid that 6'10", 6'11", 16-year-old never touch a basketball in his life because his high school don't take part in the basketball competitions, and that's
a problem. So and Akeem, like you like, what I remember, because I lived in New York for a bit, and it was the first time I was exposed to the fact that there are generations of great basketball players. 2, 3 generations, and he's what Nat just described here is more of a recent thing now, where you got, Bobby Llewellyn, and then he was a great player, then his son is a great player, and Rowan Barrett and his son becomes a great player. But in America and in New York, that was already going on for 2, 3, 4 generations. Tell us about that.
Yeah, like I said, man, growing up in New York was very different, man, because it is the sport, right? It is the main sport. So when you wake up every day, there's always new competition, is because this guy's father or this guy's brother or sister played at such a high level that it just trickled down to them.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as like the national team, it is very important, especially from the experience that I had, that you pick the right 12 to 18, 20 people to get this team together. And when you bring them down there, you just can't always talk about just winning. You got to talk about what you have to implement in the country, because for that month that you're in that country, you got to have these young players, you got to have these young kids come to these practices and listen and learn after the practices is done. We don't have the facilities right now in Jamaica to have these different camps, but use what we got. So we're going to bring players in, right, for the next month and a half that we're there training. Try to get as many young players in there. Try to get as many coaches in there. Have open practices. Allow the coaches afterwards to have these meetings. Like Nate said, after the practices, they had dinners and they talked, and he was able to teach that way as well. And I think that's one of the most important parts in building this team in Jamaica, to rebuilding this team, is, listen, let's start having open practices. Let's start having open discussions. Allow the public to come in and see these practices and scrimmage so they can learn on the fly as best as possible.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, I know you talked about, I know you coach in the NBA and you coach with Team Canada, but would you ever be interested in coaching with the national team in Jamaica? Or, like, you know, I think it's important to have guys like yourself, you know, of that Jamaican heritage who made it to that level of coaching, even like university D1 coaches come back and be a part of this coaching staff. That's something that you ever thought about or ever interested you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always about giving back. It's all about learning. I actually met president at the time, Paul Gordon, right? When I was in Kingston, and you know, we talked about coaching. How are you going to affect the cadet level, the junior level, as well as the senior level, for the country to keep growing? And for me to make, I mean, I know I'm here, I'm doing these things with our country and with my team. But any way I can always give back and help, for me, it's a no-brainer. And I guess for me, I would go more to helping the coaches grow. If I'm not able to be involved from a staff point of view or whatnot, well, helping the coaches for me is priority. And so that would be the biggest thing that I would want to do.
And that's great, because Dave, as far as we had a guest come on from Jamaica, left a message saying that, you know, Nat, can you come down and bring some coaching curriculum, you know, to help out? I mean, Dave, is that something that's needed, like coaching, actual curriculum that's needed for the coaches? Coaching curriculum?
Repeat that? I'm not hearing.
We had a guest come on and say that, and ask Nat if he could come down and bring some coaching curriculum to help out the coaches. Is that something that's really needed? That's something, because Nat wants to help the coaches. Is that something that's needed, some curriculum and things like that to help the coaches?
Yes, for sure. Because as I said, like with the curriculum, like we have lack of primary school coaches in Jamaica, like maybe 5 or 4 primary school coaches. So that'll help a lot. Because exposing kids to basketball from an early age with those programs and with those curriculum, that would be great.
Yeah. So what coaching curriculum is being used right now? Like, so if you're
the FIBA coaching curriculum, all the coaches are certified by FIBA.
Certified at all levels, at every level.
Yeah.
Okay.
All levels. Like you have to be a FIBA certified coach in Jamaica.
Okay. And what about skill development and even just, you know, coaching clinics? Like if Nat, you know, was coming down here, do you guys have coaching clinics where, you know, you invite guys like that, or skill trainers? Like, is there something outside of FIBA that you know, for coaching?
Like most of the times when we get coaching clinic is like during Star Search, like a camp that keep once a year. They normally have coaching clinics going on, but that is not exposed to all of the coaches. It's like a select few who get to work at the camp get those coaches clinic. It's not like a variety where every coaches get a chance to come in and do those clinics. But we'll lock those clinics because the game is evolving and stuff like that, and it's just learn on the fly. You just have to go out and research by yourself to get this stuff. It's not like we have clinics going on where we can be constant just learning and learning about stuff. It's have to be based on yourself, like, you know, you have to go out and do your own research.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've always been wanting to do this stuff, and so let's connect. Let's put together a Zoom virtual clinic for some coaches, young coaches, older coaches, and let's do 2 or 3 sessions where one is about skill development, one is about tactical offense and defense, and teaching whatever we need to do to help build the country. That's what we need to do and get these coaches better.
Sure.
And I feel the same way too, as far as like the players, like whoever you guys are bringing up, man. I would love to do some Zooms with some of the players. Like I said, man, just coming from playing on the national team, I know how important, like you said, Dave, when the national team start winning, more people want to put money into it, right? Because people want to be a part of winning. So, like, if whenever you guys feel like you got the team that you want, or you got certain players that you want to put together to start building that national team, I'll definitely get on a couple Zoom calls as well, just to talk about talent versus camaraderie and ego versus love of the country. Because for us, our problem was this. All right, so when you're trying to go to the Olympics, there's stages, right? So we started the Caribbean stage, we got out that, we got top 3. Then we went to Central, where we had to get play against Puerto Rico, DR, and some of the other Spanish countries, Spanish-speaking countries. And we got out of that one, we came bronze in that one. And then we got the FIBA America, whereas now it's Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and all these other different countries that are used to going to the World Championship, because that was the next level, World Championship then the Olympics. So we was 2 steps ahead. When we got there, one of our biggest problems was ego versus the love of the country. Because now you see all this different, you see the Mexican coach, the Mexican national coach, he's the top coach from Spain. Another coach from Brazil is coaching the NBA. Calipari at the time was coaching Dominican Republic. So as a pro player, you see tryout in your mind. If I kill them, I may have an opportunity to play for their team in a pro season. You see what I'm saying? And that was kind of our problem, where that's where we have to kind of teach our young players, listen, when we come to the national team, let's remove the ego and let's get to this is for the love of the country. Because the more we win, the more it helps our country. And I think that was like that has to be ingrained in our children and those who are about to come up to play for the national team immediately, so we can have that success.
Yeah. Well, Nat, I think, and Akeem, thank you. I think extending that opportunity to do a Zoom and bring more knowledge, even from a distance, is what Dave and I talked about. As sometimes we got to make this big effort to get the ball rolling, but really it's not. I mean, even for one of the initiatives that Dave and I is to raise money. It was how we connected, was just to raise money to fix his court and throw a cover on his high school court. Like it wasn't, it may not be a game changer in terms of, like the whole country, but, we figured it would start a snowball effect. And in a sense it did, because that's what led me to Coach Rick Turner. And then when I connected with Coach Rick Turner, he shared with me a vision, for what he'd like to do for Jamaica. And I was like, whoa, I can co-sign that. I mean, I'd love to be a part of that. So I think what what you guys are offering, even on that level, like in terms of like just getting a few coaches on a Zoom, some people might think that, okay, well, that's not going to change the country, but it's going to create a snowball effect, and that snowball effect is I think is what we're hoping to, we're hoping to be a part of that, the snowball effect right now. So, but Nat, just not to go away from what we're talking about, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your NBA experience. What was that like? Going, climbing to that, to that level.
It was a grind. It still is a grind. My goal is to be a head coach one day in the NBA, and I know that these are all about the process, and these are necessary steps that need to be taken to get there. So for me, just keeping my head down, doing what's necessary, try to develop players, try to develop a winning team and a winning culture. Um, Obviously, I've been in a couple of organizations with the Raptors, with Celtics, and now with the Hornets. And so I've seen it from all different angles, which is great because if it's about development, I think I was around it a little bit with the Raptors, and to see like Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam to go where they needed to get to in terms of winning a championship, and kind of doing the same thing now in Charlotte. Kemba left and went, and then we have all these young guys with a lot of talent that are trying to continue to grow. And so for me, this grind and being involved in the NBA is great because for me, it's about how do guys get better, how do guys increase their value as a player, and as an organization, how do we continue to win and breed winning?
Now, just for everybody, can you, not the name drop, but name a few of the guys that you directly had influence on in developing? I know all the way back from Fresno State, even before, when you were there as a grad assistant, you just name some of the guys that you've had that direct contact with.
At Fresno, Tyler Johnson was there when we were there. He went undrafted and ended up signing a pretty good contract in the NBA.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was a grad assistant at Fresno State, my roommate was Paul Watson, who's now a two-way player with the Raptors. And so it was great for him to like finally crack that and get in there. And then along the way, we've had a lot of young players in Toronto come up.
Most,
Yeah.
you're trying to be humble. I appreciate it, but
most recently the young guys that have cracked the NBA, RJ Barrett, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, those guys have been really good, and guys that I've met in the NBA that have tried to help. I work in Charlotte and try to help all the guys, but directly it would be like Devontae Graham, who was up for a Most Improved Player this year, didn't get it. I still don't understand that, but and then being in Toronto, being around all those guys, Fred, Norm Powell, who's also of Jamaican descent, Bruno Caboclo. Like, to me, I was a small portion in all their development. I think their parents and their coaches did a great job in their development. And all I did is try to help, try to enhance, probably drop a 1-2 knowledge that those guys didn't know before. And it was great for me. And to be honest, all of them helped me get to where I am. So I'm forever in debt to those players.
What are some of the things that took these guys from being, on the cusp, average? Because a lot of guys you talked about, they weren't really huge names. They came up, they had to grind. What was the kind of switch, or what changed in them that got them to that propelled them to that next level? If you can name.
To be honest, I always can tell the guys who are going to be pretty successful, and it comes down to obsession. That is the one common theme to a lot of players that I see who become really good. They're a little bit obsessive with what they want. You show them something, they're obsessive. I was working with a young kid the other day, and I told him about being obsessive and changing his whole mindset of how to become a better basketball player. This is what you're going to have to do to become a better shooter. Mm-hmm. Shooting is probably the most important skill. And when we're talking about going back to the youth, our youth in Jamaica need to learn how to shoot. Obviously, you need infrastructure, baskets, and things, but that means our coaches need to learn how to teach shooting. And so I was teaching this kid how to shoot, and the next day he's recording himself, sending it to me on video. Hey, which parts do you see? What's wrong? This, that, and the third. and then sending it back. And then I'm voiceovering the video and sending it back. And then the next day he comes back in the gym and he's better. And then the following day he's going at it again. And I'm just like, to me, he's obsessed.
Right.
He's obsessed with the process because, yeah, you teach me something, but I'm not waiting till I get back to see you again.
Right.
I'm going home. I'm learning how to do it. I'm videoing it. I'm watching. That's the beauty of this phone. So now you're able to help kids, and you're not even with them, particularly. You know what I mean? And so that's the part that I saw a lot of guys, and even to some point of it, players who are really, really good that almost make it and don't have an obsession about it. That's probably the reason why.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I had a chance to, I'm from the Steve Nash era, so getting a chance to be around Steve Nash as a kid, I tell people that you got to have a little bit of that. You got to have some OCD. Like you got to be some sort of, like Steve was the first person that, I heard talking about makes. Like he wouldn't leave until he made a certain number of shots, and then he was obsessive, like consecutive shots and consecutive makes and consecutive swishes before he leaves the gym. It's like there was this OCD-ness about him that you're like, man, what's wrong with this guy? Yeah. But you can tell, like, and anytime I've been around anybody that had that little something special, I mean, I agree with you. They were just something about them that was a little bit OCD that they just couldn't leave the gym until they got it right,
Let me ask you a question. Can obsession be taught? Just maybe. I don't know. I'm asking, like, is that something that can be like?
Well, I work with young people on a lot of different levels, and some things are instilled. They say that character is formed between the ages of 3 and like 7, depending on what they say. And it's a character trait, and you can actually instill it, but it's something that really does have to be instilled early. And I'm not saying it can't be developed later, but the difference is the ones that have it naturally, it was instilled early. And this is nothing just to do with basketball. It's just character development in your child. And so for a lot of people out there with young kids, you got to really think about that. If your child is going to be confident, is going to be, driven, or a lot of these traits that we see later on in successful people, it's literally in those formative years where that's being instilled. That's really important. Okay, we got another guest, and he's got a lot of energy, and I'm excited to bring him on because there's very few that sort of can have lived both sides of that. For us in our backyard, we have lived both sides of the Jamaican experience and the North American or Canadian experience. And so the next guy we bring out, Shaquille Keith, and he's been a pro for a number of years. Jamaican born Yachty. He's gonna. He'll tell us his story, but he's gonna jump in now and join us.
Nat, are you good to stay? I know you have. Yeah, are you guys good or?
Yeah, if anybody step out, we understand.
Can I come back in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we would love to have you back.
Okay, give me 5 minutes and I'll be able to come right back in.
Appreciate that. Anybody else need a break?
Nah, I can stay on for a few more. Let me hear Shaquille talk. Let me see what he gonna talk about. Because he's talking on the court.
Yeah. Shaq, you good?
Shaq's frozen.
You're frozen. You're on pause. You gotta get that good internet, yo. Come on.
Yeah, Shaq. Shaq's another guy. Me and Key, we played against. Playing against Shaq for a long time. A great competitor.
Well, great.
And the thing about him is his strength and his athleticism, and that is a direct Jamaican trait. You already know, like his body type is his skill set, athleticism. That's a direct.
That's the dumpling.
Yeah.
The dumpling follow us all the way to Canada. Just so you know that. Certain things came with us.
Can you listen?
Shaq, the connection to
Boy, but I don't know if I tell them that now.
Okay, yeah. We can hear you now. Just turn up the volume.
Can you now?
Yeah, we got you.
Is it buffering?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ash, there was times this year Shaq was talking crazy. And I'm like, yo, just don't listen to the dude. Like, don't listen. Come on, yo. Are y'all serious? And absolutely doing his thing now. I love playing against him, though. A true warrior. For sure.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I know Shaq. I met Shaq, you know, when he was a high school kid, and I was running a prep league up here about 10 years ago. And his demeanor back then, I was like, he has to be a yachty. Right. You know, one of his game was just like, you know, and bully ball, you know, like he just there's something about him. I said, man, he had that sort of old school sort of 90s type of, you know, fresh
for sure
kind of game, but with some modern day skills. Like he just, like, you know, so Shaq, I'm not sure if we're gonna get you on here, but you know, once you got it worked out, we'll come back to you. Dave, we do want to again continue to let people understand how we can, you know, help Jamaica and, you know, with this goal to get to the Olympics. And I think that you know, that journey for the local Jamaican athletes, you know, we know what it's like for Akeem Scott, but that journey for the local Jamaican athlete to get to that level, what does that look like? You know, like, you know, how does a local player get from being born in Jamaica to being, you know, on the national team?
Can you guys see me well? Can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jack. Dave's just gonna, you know, enlighten us on something real quick, and then you can jump in.
I think it's easier for local players now. You hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Shaq, one minute.
I think the journey to the national team is easier for local players now because the rule change in FIBA, where you're going to have more local players have the chance to make the national team because you have to get the birth certificate from your 16. So I think it's easier for local players now to get a chance to play. But it's difficult because the competition here, like you play a competition for maybe 3 months, right? The high school, the men's league, all of those competitions last for maybe 3 months. And you know, so you want guys to be playing basketball all year round. Wow. And that's difficult.
Dave, stop for a second. I think we're trying to take this thing over here. So you're telling me that basketball lasts 3 months?
Yeah, like the high school competition is basically like 3 months.
Wow. 3 months.
And the last for playing a competition for 3 months, you have to be winning.
And you got and so there's no club season, AAU season. There's no
none of that. None of that.
That's crazy. They got a 3 month season, Akeem, like a 3 month season, and there's nothing else.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's a dang. Sorry, okay, keep going. So you got to play in this 3 month season and try and develop, and then what else?
Yeah. To play a 3 month competition, you basically have to win and compete to actually the national competition. Like if you're a school that maybe you're losing games, you maybe play for 2 months and then you're out, or maybe a month and a half and then you're out. Wow. And those kids don't play basketball, play another competition for the next year coming up.
Wow,
it's difficult.
Yeah, I want to ask Ben, just going back to what Nara was talking about, like the obsession. Do you see that obsession or that desire to really play basketball in the kids in Jamaica right now? Like, what would you rate it? Like, if you like a 1 to 10, a scale of 1 to 10.
Like maybe 8. Like these kids, they want to play basketball. Like even you see these kids on the court, even though there is no competition, they'll be playing pickup games. Like for my school, like my players, they play basketball all year round. Like they don't stop. Every afternoon they're playing their pickup games, even though there is no competition for them. So the kids have the passion. It's just for us to put in place like these competition for them to play all year round to compete against each other.
Right.
And what the next difficult thing, like, in Western Jamaica, we don't get a chance to compete against like Kingston players a lot.
Okay.
Like, so like competing against each other a lot. Like, so it's mostly basically it's mostly like in a conference. You get to compete in a conference year round, but you don't get to play against other players or other teams outside of your conference, and that's the difficult thing.
All right, Shaq, you're good. You're muted. Can't hear you.
Wow.
Shaq's connection is. Yo, Shaq.
His Wi-Fi might be
I
in
can hear you.
bush.
Hold
Yo, Jack, you gotta go with the 4 or 5G on your phone, bro. You gotta get off of it. You gotta get off of it.
So, all right. Well, Shaq's getting ready. Akeem and Nat, I wanted to ask you guys, what Akeem, you said at the pro level, right? You started to see more pros that are Jamaican heritage, right? Like, what do you see an impact at the pro level of Jamaican culture? Like, how do you see that as you're playing, 10, 12, 13, 14 years? Is there any evidence of, from players that you played against, of like a Jamaican culture in these different countries that you've been playing?
Hell yeah! Listen, bro, I get DM now by so many Jamaican players. It is crazy because they want to know how to get on the team, right? So like I just send them to like a coach that I know or somebody that's in the organization, bro. And I take the time and I look at their videos and stuff like that because I want to see, how good they are, bro. We got a world full of Jamaicans that are absolutely off the chain, bro. And I first bumped into a lot of good Jamaicans when I went to Canada, when I came up there to Brampton.
Yeah.
And then after that, a lot of people was hitting me. A lot of young kids was hitting me because they knew I played for the national team. And I would look at their stuff on YouTube and I'm like, damn, this is nice. Like we got some good players coming up. And then as I start, as I keep playing different players, different places, when I'm playing in Mexico, I'm playing against another guy who can jump out the gym and shoot the three. He said he's Jamaican. And so after a while, I would just bump into different Jamaicans every day. Like just period. Like they DMing me or I'm playing against them. I think one of the big success stories that helped that as well was like Samardo Samuels.
Oh yeah.
Like we know how big Samardo is. So Samardo out there just killing people, and he rep Jamaica, everywhere. You know what I mean? He wear it on his sleeves, and I think more people started like, I guess, once they see him, they're like, damn, I play ball too. I'm from Jamaica, or I'm Jamaican. How did I get on? So, like every year, it's just I see more and more talent, which I'm like, yo, this is gonna be dope. That's why I'm excited. That's why I keep saying, bring the right guys in because it'll make a huge difference for the country.
Can everybody hear me? You guys hear me now?
Hey, 4G on. You got to.
I had to start, guys. I had to switch to my laptop.
Okay. But yo, I'm gonna go and take care. I hear my kids going crazy upstairs right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my thing up there. Go back to daddy daycare.
Hey, Akeem,
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, no doubt, bro. And I definitely gonna hit Hey, yo, Dave, you got Instagram?
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you. I'll message you.
And yo, Nate, I'm gonna definitely hit you up on the gram too. I'm already.
Akeem, man, I'll see you, bro.
Yo, chat. Don't come on here talking crazy like you be doing on the court. I don't want to hear none of that. I'm definitely gonna be watching on the phone.
Hey, hopefully I can play with you one day, man.
Yo, same here, bro. Keep doing your thing, man. Like I was telling, bro, you're a true warrior out there, bro.
I appreciate you, brother, man.
No doubt, man. Everybody stay safe out here.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Nate, me and Dawkins, Ashton, what's going on, guys?
What's going on, bro?
Man, boy, the Wi-Fi, you know what I'm saying?
The Wi-Fi is good now.
Yeah.
No, I'm good, man. God is good, man. We're just dealing with the pandemic just like everybody else is. You know what I mean? And just trying to maximize in the time that we have and try to get better each day. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. this downtime. It's giving me a lot of time to think about a lot of different things, whether it's business, stuff when it comes to myself, my body, trying to get it to the place where I want it to be. And, you know, I've been really maximizing in this time.
Okay. Well, hey, we need to hear them come up in Jamaica stories that you've been telling me and telling us, man. You know, we gotta, you know, what was it like for you, you know, being born and actually, when did you come up from Jamaica to tell us?
Well, actually, I was born here in Canada, and I moved back to Jamaica and went to school. My mom moved me back to Jamaica in Manchester. My people that were from Manchester. I went to Patchetown Knowledge School when I was there at the time. And, you know, at that point, I went to go live with my grandmother. Everybody knows when you go live with your grandma, especially in the United, you're probably not doing what you're supposed to be doing in life. So grandma definitely straightened me out there. And Miss Curdell, she's a very well-known teacher. She's been out there for a long time. Most of my family then work in government. My aunties, they work in the police force in some different places. And my uncle Ronnie, he was a soldier for a little while. And my mom, she moved up to Canada when she was 15. And life kind of started from there. And the experience in Jamaica is like no other. And if you know, for those people that don't know about Jamaica like that, you know, some of the hardship and things that you face, you know, you're really forced to make much of it, you know. And you know, that's definitely was an eye-opening experience. And coming from over here in Foreign and going over to Jamaica and experiencing what it's like walking 2 hours to school there and back with your little sister in the bush. Being able to, you know, you have to run from Duffy at nighttime, man. You know what I'm saying? Those type of things, you know what I'm saying? And understanding how to get home from, you know what I mean, different landmarks, whether it's a shop or it's a certain type of tree or stuff like that. You know, those experiences are things that really mold you as a man and mold you in ways and puts life in a different perspective. And you know, I've been grateful. At the time, I hated it, but you know, I've been grateful to understand life from that aspect and see what my mom and my aunties and my relatives been able to go through it. And it definitely was a great experience for me.
All right. Well, tell us now about your first baskets. You know, Dave's told us there's a shortage of courts and baskets. How did you have to improvise?
Well, so I'll tell you this story now. So when I was at home, when I was out in Jamaica, and there's no basketball. It's not like over here in Canada where you have basketball nets every corner you turn. And I was there one time outside and I was playing after I just finished eating a star apple, just finished climbing the trees, eating a star apple. I was there, I was thinking to myself, boy, basketball. I always loved basketball. My mom named me after Shaquille O'Neal, of course. And, you know, basketball has always been in my mind as a young man. And, you know, while I was out there, I went outside and I seen an old pail. And the old pail was just outside and it was there. And, you know, something rose up in my mind to say, you know what? I don't have access to the best of the best nets. The only net that I see in the place is at my school, and my school is about an hour and a half away. So what I did was I took out the pail. I broke out the bottom of the pail. Okay, so it had some rust, so it's easy for me to punch out. And I was probably about 14 years old at the time. I punched out the bottom of the pail. The pail became my hoop. Okay, so I went down in the gully. I went by the hog pen. I seen a hog pen is pigs, for those who don't know. I went down, I see so some of the cages that you keep the hogs in, they'll have the wood there to hold them in. So I had one of those. I cut out the hole. I got myself a piece of wood, a good piece of wood. And I took it out. And outside in Jamaica, our kitchen is outside. Okay. I'm pretty sure Dave Black know about them thing then. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure I ask you to talk the real, so real. You know? So the kitchen is outside. That's where my grandma cooks. And I took the pail, I took the big wood, no homo, and put there on the table on the outside of the kitchen. So I nailed it to the side of the kitchen. That was my net. So now obviously you need a basketball. I didn't have no fancy basketball. So the only thing I knew, just like over here in Canada, we usually take a iron, put it in the top of one of these, use a sock, and shoot. So what I did, there's a game called Dandy Shandy. I don't know if you guys know that game, but it's basically like dodgeball, kind of. So what I did, I took a suppletion juice box. Okay? Suppletion juice box. I ripped out the top of the juice box, and I found whatever I could in the yard. And I stuffed in the juice box, because usually when you play Dandy Shandy, you take a juice box or something that you can throw that's soft and play with it. So I ripped off the top of the box, and I used to stuff like receipts, anything that I could stuff it with that I found around. I put it in there, crumpled up the ball, and I used to shoot fadeaways inside that net. And I used to go home to that net every single day and shoot that suppletion box. Okay, this is like a milk carton, baby milk carton. And that was my ball. And I used to work on my fadeaways because Kevin Durant's my favorite player. And I used to think to myself that I was KD hitting fadeaway jump shots and taking tough shots, game winners. And, you know, at that time, it was like, who would have thought? When you're in places like that, you have nothing but to be creative. And if you know about the Jamaican people, we're very, very creative. And, you know, that was my experience with that. And that's kind of how my basketball dream really started for real.
Hey, Dave, how many young kids in Jamaica do you think have stories like that? You know?
Almost everybody. I do. Almost everybody. Mine was a bucket. Mine was like a bicycle rim. The sports, they have to beat out the sport. Mine was on a court that in my backyard. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Yeah, and it's so crazy because you know, yeah, we're dealing with COVID and COVID's impacting us all over the place. And we got gyms closing here in Canada. And, you know, when you listen to the struggles of our kids here, it's not being in a gym that's air conditioning, that's covered. You know, like, you know, having to now be outside all the time and playing ball that's the worst thing that they're facing right now. And you're still talking about outside with nice rims and court, you know, rims in your driveway, and how many of these kids got personal trainers in their driveway, got Wi-Fi iPads, you know, on the side with drills and dribble up this and Zoom meetings afterwards of you know, of how they did. So even in a time of COVID, when we look at it for us here, the worst we're dealing with now is the fact that we just can't hoop inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's crazy, you know, with outside courts. Nat, for your experience in Africa, how similar, or was it anything like what you know they experienced in Jamaica, or they're talking about experience in Jamaica for the Africans and, you know, the people where you met and the people you met in Africa?
You're on mute, Nat.
Oh, you're mute.
I think the big thing was the infrastructure, and trying to figure out again the resources of how the kids can get on court, and basketball, things like that. So one of the plans of Giants of Africa were to go to these countries when they had it, was to give all the kids a ball, was to give all the kids a pair of shoes. And then what Masai wants to do is he wanted to build courts, you know. And I know last summer they built a court where Barack Obama was there, and they cut the ribbon to open it. And so that his project is, again, if kids have shoes, basketball, and again, if they're raising money in situations to build courts for kids to play, then the game will grow. Because just like in Africa, I think in Jamaica, even though we're a smaller country, you have the athletes, you have the players, you have the body type, the prototype of what a basketball player should be. So from that part, we're fortunate. Now we need to try to put ourselves in situations where we can add skills. And I think that's part of the case. So If it's raising money, it's to put courts down, as what Dave was talking about earlier. A lot of schools don't have a basket. Well, let's fix that. You know, I think there has to be a situation where every school should at least have one basketball court. And I think because the soccer and track, it's not expensive. There's a lot of things that you can make up. You get one soccer ball, you can create a soccer game. You can put two shoes down and create a soccer game. You have grass, you can run. Right? With basketball, you need a ball and you need a hoop. And you see that these other sports that cost a lot of money, like football and hockey, that's why they're not in these type of countries. Right. So basketball is another resource that we're actually really good at. And so I think in Africa, that was the goal.
Yeah.
And I think I see the same thing that needs to be done in Jamaica. But it just takes people coming together and trying to figure out how to get that done.
Absolutely. And you know, again, I gotta give it to Rick Turner. And it's, you know, like, you know, sometimes people will come into another country and, you know, he holds obviously a very high position as the head coach, you know, and it's not often that they embrace what needs to happen at the grassroots level. You know, he's coming from outside. And I think there is an opportunity with this, like this 24-hour live stream, for example, which was his vision. We had a meeting, and he came to us and like, hey, you know, you remember back in the day they used to have these, you know, these telethons. He goes, let's do that to launch. And you know, and we're looking at each other like, telethon, you know. But when you think about it, like, you know, the idea was the same thing. You know, we just got to bring some energy and some attention to what it is that, you know, the goal is and what's happening. And I think it's accomplished that. And as far as what we're talking about here with needed infrastructure, it's the same thing. That, man, let's get that first rim up. Let's just pick a school and get that first rim up. You know, let's just, you know, pick a school and get that first court, you know, fixed up, and just do our part together. And that's, you know, Dave, that's how about that as a starting point?
That would be great, because for us in the Western region, like, that is the one thing we lack, like a court. There's no like area where the kids can go and compete all year round. So getting a court in Western Jamaica with cover will be really good, because when it rains, there's no basketball. And this time of the year, like, it rains almost every day. So there's no basketball going on at this time of the year when you come out it. So having a cover on a court would be great for Western basketball overall.
Wow, just that alone. You know, I gotta tell you that, you know, one of the things that I've been writing blogs, and I've been writing people's, you know, stories and their journeys on, you know, for, you know, I started doing that maybe about 5 years ago, and while I was doing it, I started, you know, learning about, you know, Canadian basketball history, and you guys tell me if you think that I'm on point with this, but when you look at the Jane and Finch pipeline over the years, that's like immigrant central, you know, Jane and Finch and Falstaff, all the way down to Jane and Bloor, you know, where that influx of Jamaican immigrants and other immigrants came into. We didn't have Canada Basketball or Ontario Basketball structuring stuff for us. We really just had access to community centers and gyms. So all that pent up energy and athleticism we had, like, guess what we were? We're in the gyms, you know, and we're learning to play basketball. But then the evidence of that, of how we were able to grow just by having access to infrastructure, is when you look at all, you know, before the collapse of high school basketball, when you look at all the powerhouses that fed from that Jane and Finch pipeline, you know, Runnymede, Eastern Commerce, George Harvey, Bathurst, Jeffries, anywhere you had that, you know, you had high school program that fed from that Jane pipeline, you had some of those dominant teams and athletes in the city. And then you add even the birth of grassroots Canada, and guess what? It was in Jane and Finch and Jungle. And it's all, you know, guys from, you know, Jamaican immigrants, kids and other immigrant kids. And this is without bigger structure. This was just access to a gym on a consistent basis and courts, you know. And, you know, so what do you think about that? That's just my thoughts, and just in terms of, you know, some of the things that I should have learned from my writing. That Jane and Finch pipeline, and and just, you know, that talent pool.
Yeah, I feel like that's all the at-risk neighborhoods, to be honest. I mean, I think we think about, you know, the Jane and Finch, Jane Strip. I mean, I could think of a bunch of guys coming out of Rexdale, Lawrence Heights area, Malvern. So I think that as long as there was at-risk neighborhoods, because the immigrants and trying to figure out life and how they were going to get a job, this is where they started. Until they now, what you're seeing now again, are these same people that were growing up in these at-risk neighborhoods, figuring out how to get a job in financial, better financial situations, to where they're branching out and getting houses in Brampton, they're getting houses in Oakville and Milton, and all of a sudden their sons and daughters now are the same ones as like that were in these at-risk neighborhoods that we talked about. Because now you can't find the inner city kids playing as much because they moved out. So it's just interesting. I mean, if you look at all the NBA players that we have here in Toronto, Canada, Mississauga, Brampton, East, Ajax. Which one of them are from Jungle, Jalen Finch, downtown Regent Park?
But that's second generation, like you're saying, like that's the generation that left those inner city pockets, into those areas and took what they learned there, instilled that into their children. So, and I think that would be the same with, you know, if you look at the history of New York and other places and any inner city pockets where you had the type of talent pool, raw talent that, you know, that comes through, like places like Jamaica. So I think when we talk about really being able to help Jamaica, I mean, what does that really say about just something as basic as infrastructure, where kids can just have, can have access to a court, a ball, and some rims? You know, it says a lot.
Right. Like I won't even. You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
So even just to go off of what Nate was saying, I mean, I even know for myself, like Falstaff, that's kind of where I grew as a basketball player, and that was actually one of the first trainers to ever coach me, especially at that young age. I was training with him and Denham Brown at the time, and you know, I learned so much. I learned so much at that age, and being in that, like, I feel like Falstaff is like the Mamba Academy of like Canada. All the killers in the game, if you haven't gone through Falstaff, then it's like, you know what I mean? What you really doing with yourself? You know what I'm saying? Right. I was living in Brampton at the time, and I was taking those hour-and-a-half trips just to come to workouts to train with Nat and Denham. Like, you know what I'm saying? And Ro, a really good friend of mine as well, and he seen me at a really young age. And, you know, I never forget, I walked to the front of Falstaff, and he's like, Shaq! I'm like, well, it's good, Ro, how are you, man? And he's like, listen, I want you to train with Denham Brown. He said it just like that to me. You know what I mean? And that's how I kind of got introduced to the Falstaff and the basketball community there. And even with Nate, I've seen him build himself to who he is from that spot. You feel me? And there's so much more other guys, and even some of the local players that are not even spoken about, guys that could have easily been NBA players and could have made it. I've been able, even for me, I could say I've been able to learn so much from so much different people. And that Jamaican culture and that grittiness, and in Toronto, if you don't know, for those that are watching, like, we're based off Jamaicans, Afro, like, you know, African, Jamaican. Right. That's kind of like the real culture here. You know what I mean? And it's like just being able to be with, you know, your people and being able to grow in an environment like that, it's something that's life changing. I know for me, like, it gave me purpose at the time, you know, it gave me purpose. And I go back to those moments when I'm in there with Fran Man, and I'm in there with Big Shanes, and I'm in there with the Cheeses, and, you know, we can go on. And you guys are some of the guys here that have been able to do some really good things for the community. And there's so many more people that can name. But, you know, I feel like it's very important to have that type of community, especially at a young age, because kids never forget those things. And it's really important.
Hey, Dave, do you guys in Jamaica have something like a community center that's like a hub? Because, you know, one of the things that we're talking about here is like a place like Falstaff, like it's just a community hub that has a gym and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
we have a lot of community centers, but basically it's almost back to the same thing, like a football field and a track and stuff like that. No courts.
Oh no. Okay, so you got
Yeah.
no court. Well, you know what, Shaq is so good, Nate.
I just want to ask, how much would it cost to build a court in Jamaica, like an outdoor court?
See, actually, we did the math, right there.
Yeah. What was the price? What was the price again, Wayne? I think we did some research on it. I'm gonna find.
Yeah, we did it, and just resurfacing the court itself, you know, would probably be, you know, anywhere on about 10 G's just to resurface the court.
That's 10 G's US.
Yeah, US. So all of this is US. So we had a budget. We were trying to raise about 75,000, but that was 75,000 because we wanted to build a cover and with some bleachers, resurface and turn it into a double court instead of a single court. So you could have like a tournament. So the budget for what we were trying to raise was 75,000, and that was 75,000 would have got us a double court, bleachers, a cover,
Yeah.
and lights. You know, so that was the plan. That Dave, that sounds about right.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So yeah, I see the wheels turning. That was like me. I looked at that and I'm like, man, I'm not bragging, but like that's the kind of money that I see wasted daily. And you know, when me and Dave was talking about it, I was like 10 G's. I mean, I see guys drop 10 G's in a day, just doing stupidness. So, you know, so I was like, we could at least resurface the court. And we got a video where, you know, we'll probably circulate it. Like we took a video and stuff of Dave's kids, and they're talking about, you know, the court and their experience. I'm gonna see if you know, next time I can share it. But his kids actually put together a video and where they actually show you their court and they talk about, you know, what their life would be like if we could throw some lights up and fix their court. It was great.
That's ideal. I think all those things are great. I'm gonna run. I really appreciate you guys having me on, speak about this and building the culture in Jamaica.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Again, let's connect about the virtual coaches clinic, really helping those coaches develop so they can help the youth. And I look forward to doing many more.
Okay.
Thanks, Nat.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks, man. Best of luck with everything else you're doing, man. Okay. We still got a couple more guests that are going to be coming in, or at least one more for sure. A couple more guests, but
I wanted Shaq to kind of give me the difference. Okay, you're born here, moved back to Yad, then you came back here.
Yeah.
How old were you when you came back here for good?
I was about, I would say 14, 15. Yeah.
So what was the biggest difference? Now you came, you're walking towards the school, you're shooting on pill. And then you come back here at 14, just starting high school. What was that shock for you, or what was the big difference?
I was definitely a lot more grateful. Let's say that. You know what I'm saying? And being able to, I mean, the difference is like, it's the resources, man. You know what I'm saying? And I won't lie to you. The education system, when you look at it, especially in Jamaica, there are very intelligent people.
Yeah.
And the education system is definitely, in some sense, especially at that age, is much higher. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's like when I came back home, my penmanship was like off the charts, because when I went to school out here in Patrick Town, you know what I mean, penmanship was a real thing. You know what I mean? And I learned how to write and be more creative with a lot of different things, and just the knowledge and the things that kids were learning in grade 6, grade 7. Like I knew that long time. You know what I'm saying? And so it was a change, and I think the experience would be a lot different if I went from there to here versus from here to there.
Right.
Because I wouldn't understand the big difference with having beautiful paved roads everywhere.
Yeah.
And having to take public transit to get to the recreation centers that are probably a couple lights a street apart versus having to drive or walk 2 hours every day just to go hoop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you look at it from that aspect, it makes you really grateful and understand that it's like, I was like, wow, the things that they face in Jamaica is much different. And for the fact that they're able to build and become such these great teams with the resources that they have, I only can imagine what it's going to be like when they have all the things that they need. You know what I mean? And it would definitely an eye-opener. And it's something that I would never change because it also built me to be who I am because of the fact of understanding what it's like to be a warrior. You know what I mean? That mentality carried over into my life, and I apply it. And even especially when I'm speaking to the younger generation, I let them understand that they should be grateful for what they have and the resilient, because a lot of people are not waking up. Like, look at the pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going crazy right now.
Trust
You know
me.
what I mean? And imagine this being your actual life where you don't have a resource, you don't have these cool nets and cool places and infrastructures to go to just to enjoy yourself in the way that you want. So that mental toughness side of it, it's a really big deal. And I would definitely can say that it made me tougher as an individual, and it definitely made me look at life much differently.
So if you can give me three characteristics that you developed from living with your granny in Jamaica or growing up in a Jamaican house like that, now you took from your life, using your life, and that translate onto the basketball court, because you're aggressive, you know what I mean? You're aggressive. What are some characteristics that you think, being a Jamaican and being raised in that Jamaican household, translate over to the game of basketball?
Integrity would probably be the first one I would say.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing, being true to oneself is a big thing, and it's a part of the Jamaican culture. A lot of people will call it ignorance.
Yes.
It's not ignorance, it's understanding who you are as a person and what you stand for. And Jamaica is very well known. When you have that saying, one love, one heart, you know what they will say in the commercials, and that's really what it is. It's one love, one heart, with one heartbeat. And there's the reason why people, when they come to Jamaica, they love it so much, is because the community, the camaraderie, the people, the love that they receive, you know what I mean? That stuff is very important for the culture, you know what I mean? And we're very strong-minded people where we know there is no excuses. We learn to work through the storm. And, that mentality is what, people know me for the saying bully season. And, you know what I mean? That mentality is being able to tap into a different demeanor, a different focus. It's kind of like a Mamba mentality type of deal. You know what I mean? And that comes from that. So integrity is very important. Relationships is another one I learned. My grandma, being one of the, biggest teachers in her like where she was, she was a mother and a grandmother to everybody.
Absolutely. You know what? Hey, we got two more guests going to jump in with us, Shaq.
Yeah.
We got Andrew Nicholson, Orlando 19th pick at the Orlando Magic in 2012. And he's joining us. And we got Denham Brown backstage, 2006, Seattle Supersonic.
Well, fellas,
Brown. Nicholson, what's going on, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yo, Drew, thank you so much. I know you're jumping in from a workout. Can you tell us a little bit about your background as far as, Jamaica, being Jamaican, and, and what you got going on even right now?
Yeah, I mean, both my family, both sides actually, they're from OG. I've been there many, many times, growing up as a kid, just being able to see, the houses that my dad and my mom had grown up in, the land that they have, and this, it was an experience, just being able to go there. I've been there maybe 12 times in my life, so just being able to see that was amazing.
Great. So, D. Brown, what about you? What's your background?
Jamaican, well, Canadian Jamaican. I actually have a couple of stories about going back to Jamaica. My dad actually used to send me and my sister back to Jamaica in the summer for a couple of months. The entire summer in '93, I went back to Jamaica with my sister. Wow. We spent the entire summer there. We just pretty much, I was in the country, wasn't in town.
You know what I'm saying? I was tying up goats, moving cows, all the country style, everything that was country. I never touched a ball that whole summer, but all my brothers them told me when I came back I was a different person. You know, that's one thing that I remember. As soon as I came back from the summer, I never touched the ball for the whole 2 summers. As soon as I came back, my brothers them was like, "Yo, D Brown, something went on. You were at Jamaica, you did something we don't know." So, yeah, there's something special. There's something going on. There's something special about Jamaica, man. And if you do have a chance to go down there, even if you live down there, or if you're a tourist, just go down there and spend a couple of weeks. You'll definitely see the culture is different.
So, hey, Drew, we've been talking about that, the need for infrastructure and how, exactly like Denham was saying, that there's no hoops. He's there for a whole summer. There's nowhere to play. But, when you look at how infrastructure has helped us, just having access to a gym, what do you think? Do you think that would make a big difference in the development of talent down there? Just better access? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that make a huge difference. I mean, having accessibility to gyms and having people who have actually played the game a lot, being able to help the youth down there would definitely help them grow as a nation basketball wise. I mean, it's helped us up here in Canada. I mean, I know we're still going in the right direction, but if we actually had that down in Jamaica, I think there'd be a good turnout.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Denham, when we first linked up, when I met you, Denham, it was like, we talked about with Matt, and we talked about that Jane and Finch pipeline, how, from Finch all the way down to, with Falstaff and Stanley all the way down to Bloor, Jane and Bloor, like the talent level, Jamaicans have immigrated into that area, how big do you think that area was for basketball? That pipeline, Jane and Finch. How big do you think that was for Canada?
Well, I would say that the entire Jane Strip. I wouldn't just concentrate it to the Jane and Finch area. When I was growing up in Falstaff in the '80s, like there was a heavy basketball culture in the Falstaff Community Center. Like there was a lot of talent in Falstaff Community Center. I don't know where they came from, maybe Toronto, maybe from the Jane Strip, but they just centralized in the community center. And we kind of brought it back in the early 2000s, me, Nat, and the quote unquote five guys. Shaq knows about the five guys. But at the same time, I just, it's just guys have gravitated to where they know basketball is, and I think that Falstaff has a sacred spot of being known for hoops. I think a lot of guys will come in the city and say, okay, what are the main gyms? We might not have big gyms, but we got main gyms. And I think Falstaff is one of the main gyms based on who has come through there and who has really been through there and showed consistency throughout that facility, that gym. I'm also a big believer of if you build it, they will come. Just having a structure in Jamaica and having the certain guys. I'm a big believer about who's there, not what's there, but who is there is very important for helping things to grow, right? And I feel like, the guys on this page, every person on this page has that ability. I think everybody on this page, everywhere they've seen growth, whether it was in front of their face or if you actually had the time to look behind you, you would see that there was growth happening behind you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what, Drew, you have a little bit of a different perspective as well too, because you made it in an environment that maybe wasn't the typical, in a sense of like what we've been talking about, where everybody's talking about Falstaff, Jane and Falstaff, but you came up and became a first-round pick. And what was your experience like?
I mean, I started playing basketball when I met you at Phase One. So, being able to be a part of that community is what actually got me to help me where I'm at right now. I mean, growing up, I went to Gates. Basketball was just it was more of like a hobby for me, and I started to take it more seriously once I started to be around a lot of my teammates who like I saw their passion for the game, so it started to grow on me, and I was like, hey, this can propel me to go in the right direction. And that's what I feel as though, like, if we had something like that in, like, Jamaica, if people had the opportunity, how many superstars that we can have down there that we don't even know of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But like Denham was saying, and we've been talking about, it's like, well, we need courts to go to. So even if we went there right now, it's like, we can stay in the night resort, but like, where are we going to go to be able to impact and do our thing? I think that it always seems to be coming back to infrastructure, but also, Akeem was on the call earlier. And he said, but also if Jamaica starts winning at the highest levels, that now might bring in some corporate and bring in some some trickle down, just from winning. What do you guys think about that?
I'm always from the ground up. I don't think anything's gonna happen from the top and go back down, right? I always think it's gonna start from the ground, and just putting ourselves in positions to be able to teach at the youngest age. Maybe we won't see it in our lifetime, but maybe 25 years down the line, Jamaica might be an Olympic contender in basketball. But I don't think that we should focus on getting the best product or even trying to win, but just getting players better, developing kids and having a ground for them to play on and develop on.
Okay, I got Drew. And any thoughts on that too?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Denham's saying, just having those grassroots foundations, just being able to, get them in there early, so you can build for the future. I mean, obviously right now it'll be tough, but if you plan for, like you said, 20, 25 years, who knows?
Yeah, and then and it might be sooner, because when you look at Canada, you got to think about Canada didn't start winning because they put together a winning program at the top. Canada started winning when guys like yourself, pass through the hands of guys like me, who pass through the hands of David Joseph and other guys at community level, developed you guys, and then Canada was able to grab you guys and put you on a world stage. And when you guys you got your opportunity, you did your thing. And I think that I agree with you for sure. Also, Wayne, I think Jamaica has had an example of winning first. Like, for instance, check out the Reggae Boys. They were very successful. And when they had a chance to develop and start bringing in kids to develop using that Reggae Boy, that big Reggae Boy name, they didn't do that. They just ran with the Reggae Boys. But where's the development? Yeah. Until Reggae Boys was done. They probably had 8 years under their belt, but no development happened. They didn't have any development, no structure, no infrastructure. You could have had the Reggae Boys right now, 2020, brand new Reggae Boys. Well, Dave Black is actually a coach on the women's development team and a high school coach down there, and a former Jamaican national team player. Dave, what do you think about what they're saying? That top down versus bottom up. What do you think?
I think he's correct, because at the end of the day, those players are going to get old, and they're not going to be there forever. So it's best to build up from the grassroots up. So you can have they call it national team, under 14, under 16, under 19, all the way up to the senior level. Not just the senior team alone is going to help, but you have to be like from the grassroots, where you have them get involved from under 14, under 16, under 19. You have to be from the grassroots.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I'm not even saying that. I'm not even trying to contradict myself, but I think that the plan that Rick, and we're going to bring out Rick, Coach Rick, in like about 30 seconds, and we're going to hear about his plan. But I think there's an opportunity to support the goal of getting to Paris in 2024, and support that effort that Rick is putting together. At the same time, guys like us, we begin to, work together and do our part at the grassroots level. So I'm going to let Rick, when you're available, record, you can come out, and it's the head coach of Jamaican men's national team, Rick Turner. He's about to join us in about 30 seconds to help wrap it up.
There I am.
Hey.
Wayne, I got to tell you, man, you put together an awesome 2 hours. And it's so great, and it's awesome to meet you, Ashton. You and Wayne's talked you up for a long time with me, and you reached all of his accolades. You reached them all, and it was almost impossible for that to happen because he really talked you up. And then I've got Denham Brown here, who's probably my all-time favorite Sonic, which is awesome.
It was a quick stint. It was a quick
10
stint.
years, and I'm a Seattle guy. I love it.
It's all good.
Yeah, and Andrew, thanks for jumping on, man. I spent a year over in China, and so I know what that whole situation is like, and the challenges and the excitement at the same time. And thanks for jumping on and doing this with these guys. And Shaq, this is the first time I've had a chance to meet you.
How you doing?
The story you told a little earlier was I mean, not only just fun and captivating, it was awesome, and it was true, and it was you, man. And it's so cool to meet you, and Dave Black, of course, who's just one of the great Jamaican coaches locally down there. You guys have done a great job, and I got to tell you one other thing. Wayne is, and thanks to Nat as well for jumping on. But when you brought on Akeem Scott, I felt like I've known that guy my entire life. He was so effusive and energetic, and just everything that came out of his mouth, you just wanted to hear him talk more. And so it was really cool, and a great 2 hours. And I appreciate what you guys have done to do this. And there's so much to do, and this is really, I mean, we've been on the job for about a year or so now, but this is really kind of the coming out of it, and there's so much to do ahead, but this is the first step. And I think with support of people like you who are investing in the not only the sport but the country, we can do it. And there's, we've been talking about it for the last 24 hours, and it's in the corner of the screen covering Shaq's face up. We can, we will, right?
So, well, Coach, just so you know, like, we are definitely on board to make a difference. Andrew and I have been talking about doing a basketball camp. We've been talking going back and forth about that, and we know that's going to be a reality today. With Denham, Ashton, myself, and we are guys that we are doers. So, it's something that, it's going to go from conversation to reality very soon, and supporting everything that you're doing as well too. So, thank you for the opportunity.
No, I appreciate that, man. And I'm not going to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I will say this: I think I'm a pretty decent judge of talent. And I knew right when I met you, Wayne, that you were a guy that can get some things done, and you didn't let me down in your first test. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. All right. Well, we got a break now. It's 1 o'clock. Thank you for, we got a 2 hour segment. Everybody, Drew, thank you. I know what it's like, trying to get yourself out of here to China. Denham, thank you. Shaq, Nat, that was on before. Dave, spend the whole time. We burn out your internet down there. But, of course, the team. Thank you all, Ashton, and me and him going to keep working together, trying to make a big difference everywhere we go. So, thank you.
You're doing it. Thanks, guys. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to stay. I'll stay. You guys can go, but thanks.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.